You've been taught to believe that reality is solid, stable, fixed, that what you see is what is. But what if I told you that the version of life you're living right now is only one of many, one of infinite possibilities, hovering in the quantum field, waiting for your frequency to align with something new? Right now, you're standing inside a timeline, yes, but that timeline is not a prison, it's a pattern. And patterns can be shifted, collapsed, rewritten, but not with effort, not with force, not even with desire alone, only with frequency. Because here's the truth they never taught you in school: your external world is a mirror, not of what you want, but of what you are. Everything that surrounds you, your relationships, your finances, your health, your inner dialogue, it's not random, it's resonance, it's coherence. The universe isn't rewarding effort, it's reflecting alignment. And most people, without even knowing it, are trapped in timelines they no longer resonate with, reenacting the same loops, the same emotional patterns, the same beliefs that were never truly theirs to begin with. So if you've ever wondered why things don't change, even when you try to shift them, this is the reason. You're still broadcasting the old frequency, and the field is responding with precision, not because it's cruel, but because it's consistent. Now take a deep breath. Let this next idea land softly but fully. The quantum shift, the real shift, isn't something you do. It's something you become. You don't have to create a new timeline. It already exists. The version of you who lives with peace, with power, with purpose, that version already vibrates in the field. Your only task is to match it. But matching a frequency isn't about repeating mantras or visualizing harder. You can't fake vibration. The field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your state, to your truth, to what your nervous system believes is real. So if part of you is saying, "I am healed," but your body is still bracing for the next wound, the field hears the tension, not the affirmation. If part of you is saying, "I am abundant," but you feel panic every time you check your bank account, the quantum registers fear, not faith. This is where so many manifestation teachings fall short. They teach you to say the right things, but they don't teach you how to become the version of you that lives in the new timeline. And that's what today is about. You're not here to fix the old version of you. You're here to tune into the version of you that's already whole, already free, already aligned. The quantum field doesn't need convincing, it only needs coherence. And coherence begins when every part of you, your thoughts, your emotions, your breath, your posture, your intention, all hum in the same frequency. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be true. So here's the invitation. Stop asking, "How do I get what I want?" Start asking, "Who do I need to become to naturally attract that reality without force?" Because here's the paradox. When you become it, you no longer need to chase it. When you tune to the new timeline, the old one dissolves on its own, not because you fought it, but because you stopped feeding it. That is the beginning of the quantum shift, and that's where your power truly begins. Most people don't realize they're looping, repeating emotional sequences so familiar they feel like truth. They wake up with the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, make the same choices, and wonder why the universe keeps echoing back the same outcomes. But the quantum field is not ignoring you. It's reflecting you, repeating until you shift, until you become unfamiliar to your old self. And here's the secret most never hear. You don't shift timelines by pushing harder or by craving something so intensely that the universe just gives in. You shift when your entire being, consciously and unconsciously, emits the frequency of the new reality, as if it were already true. That's why the shift feels so strange at first. It doesn't feel like chasing. It feels like surrender. It feels like choosing to no longer believe in the lack, the fear, the defense patterns that once defined you. This is why people get stuck. They're still entangled with an identity that's calibrated for survival, not expansion. An identity that was formed during times of pain, times of fear, times when your body decided that playing small was safer than being seen. That doubting yourself was better than risking disappointment. That silence was protection. But those adaptations, those old frequencies, no longer belong in the reality you're stepping into. And the field is listening. Right now. It's scanning not your intentions, but your coherence. The alignment between what you say you want and what your subconscious believes you deserve. So if your body still flinches around intimacy, if your nervous system still contracts at the thought of success, if your breath still shortens when you imagine being free, that is the signal. Not your words, not your vision board, not your timeline script. The body broadcasts what the mouth cannot hide. And the quantum listens to the broadcast. This is why healing your frequency is the foundation of true quantum manifestation. Not because it's spiritual fluff, but because it's physics. When your internal environment, your emotional baseline, your nervous system state, your somatic memory vibrates differently, you collapse a different version of reality. And here's what they don't teach you. The observer is not just your eyes. The observer is your entire being. Your beliefs observe, your trauma observes, your breath observes, and whatever part of you is strongest, most dominant, that's the part the field responds to. So, when you say, "I'm ready," but your nervous system says, "I'm not safe," the field reflects your readiness and your fear, but it mirrors the fear first, because fear is stronger in signal strength. This is why you can do all the spiritual rituals and still loop. Why you can go to therapy, do affirmations, light candles, pull oracle cards, and still feel stuck. Because if your system is still carrying the coding of survival, you'll collapse the wave into what's familiar, not what's possible. Familiarity is magnetic to the subconscious, and this is where people misinterpret resistance. Resistance isn't laziness. Resistance is the body saying, "We've never been here before. An unfamiliar feels unsafe." That's why you pull back. That's why you sabotage. That's why you freeze. And this is the layer you must meet with gentleness, not shame, because the part of you that clings to the old timeline isn't bad. It's just scared. And fear is not a barrier. It's a doorway, a sacred threshold between who you were and who you're becoming. So breathe with it. Listen to it. Speak to it like you would a younger version of yourself. Because that's often who it is, a past self, frozen in time, still believing that suffering is safer than change. But you're not that version anymore. Not now. Not here. The moment you know you're looping, the spell is already breaking. You've stepped into the observer seat, and the observer, when conscious, collapses new realities. This is the intersection of quantum physics and healing. The field responds to the signal of sovereignty, of presence, of choice. And every time you return to presence, even if your body is shaking, even if your thoughts are spiraling, you realign, you shift, you move closer to the timeline that already holds your highest self. The version of you who doesn't force outcomes, who doesn't beg the universe, who doesn't fake confidence, but who lives as though the shift already happened, because internally, it has. Let's go deeper, because this is the part no one teaches. You don't shift timelines with willpower, you shift with embodiment, and embodiment means your frequency changes before the evidence does. Your nervous system stops reacting like the old version of you, before your bank account, your relationship, your reality has caught up. This is the hard part. It means choosing the frequency of abundance when the bills still scare you. Choosing the frequency of love when your heart still carries the memory of betrayal. Choosing trust even while your voice shakes. Most people want to wait for confirmation before they shift, proof that it's working. But the quantum field doesn't offer proof first. It offers reflection. And only when your vibration stabilizes does the mirror begin to show something new. The reason most people never make it past this point is because the old reality is loud. It's physical, tangible, habitual. And the new timeline? It's subtle. It begins in whispers, in shifts so small you might miss them if you're looking for lightning. But the subtle changes are the signal. When your breath deepens instead of tightening, that's the signal. When you pause before reacting, that's the signal. When you speak to yourself with kindness, even after failing, that's the signal. These micro moments are collapses in the quantum field. Tiny frequency anchors. And the field always notices. So if you're wondering when it starts working, when your outer world will shift, pause. The question isn't, when will it happen? The real question is, can I hold the signal long enough for it to arrive? Because every time you dip back into fear, the wave re-expands. Every time you act from the old identity, the timeline restabilizes. This isn't punishment, it's feedback. The field is a perfect mirror, not of your effort, but of your energy. And energy never lies. So what's the key? Alignment, coherence, the ability to bring your thoughts, emotions, breath, body, and actions into one unified state. Not perfect, but consistent. And that's what changes timelines. Not drama, not intensity, consistency, like tuning an instrument day after day until the tone is true. And once it's tuned, the music begins. Let's get practical. If you want to shift into the abundance timeline, how do you show up today? Do you hold your body like someone who trusts there's enough? Do you speak to others like someone who believes their gifts are valuable? Do you walk through your home as though you already belong to a space of plenty? If you want to shift into the love timeline, how do you treat your own heart today? Do you listen to your emotions or push them away? Do you soften when triggered or armor up again? Do you open yourself to connection or are you still bracing for loss? If you want to shift into the healing timeline, how do you respond to your symptoms today? Do you treat your body like a battlefield or like an ally? Do you nourish it with gentleness or with judgment? Do you believe in the body's ability to regenerate or silently expect it to fail? These aren't just behaviors, they're vibrational signatures, and they collapse waves into reality. The field hears your body language, your breath patterns, your tone of voice, and it always responds. So this is the practice. Stop waiting for the shift. Start being the shift. Stop hoping for proof. Start embodying the frequency of truth, not for one day, not for one meditation, but as a way of life. It doesn't mean you'll never wobble. It means you return faster, you stabilize deeper, you become unshakable, not because you never feel fear, but because fear no longer decides your frequency. That's the moment the old timeline loses its grip. That's the moment the new timeline crystallizes. Not in the future, not someday, but now. Let's now touch the threshold most never cross, because this is where theory ends and embodiment truly begins. You've heard the words before: alignment, coherence, vibration, but have you ever lived them in the silence? In the moments when no one is watching and the old version of you whispers, "This isn't working." That voice, that doubt, is the guardian at the gate. It will test your resolve. It will beg you to return to the timeline of habit, of familiarity, of the known. And this is where the real shift happens, not in the spectacular, but in the subtle refusal to collapse back into the past. So what does it actually take to become the signal of your new reality? It takes practice. It takes presence. It takes grace. The practice begins in your awareness. Each day, you become the scientist and the subject. You wake not with your to-do list, but with a sacred check-in. What frequency am I broadcasting today? Not what am I thinking, but what am I feeling? What am I expecting? What assumptions about life am I silently believing as I brush my teeth, pour my coffee, walk into the world? These are the hidden signals that shape reality, the signals that collapse one wave over another. Most people want massive change without micro-awareness. But the quantum shift is not about drama. It's about detail. The presence begins when you notice a loop, a fear, a reaction, and instead of following it, you pause, you breathe, you retune. This is self-regulation. This is the recalibration of frequency. In these moments, you override the old code. You speak to your body gently. You remind it, we are safe now. We are not who we used to be. We are allowed to believe in something more. And each time you do, the signal gets clearer. The distortion fades. The coherence increases. And grace. Grace is how you hold yourself when you fall. Because you will fall. You will forget. You will react from fear. You will snap back into scarcity or shame. This isn't failure. This is the field checking. Are you committed to coherence even now? And your response becomes the recalibration. You catch yourself. You forgive the moment. You return again and again. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is quantum responsibility. Because what you're really doing is learning to sustain the shift, not visit it occasionally like a mystical vacation, but live there, build a home there, speak from there, choose from there, love from there. And the more you do, the more the external world begins to mirror something new. You'll notice subtle shifts at first. People respond to you differently. Opportunities find you without force. Synchronicities increase. The old triggers soften. The urgency fades. And you realize you've tuned to a new timeline, not by escaping your pain, but by holding your power, by becoming the stable signal that the field now orbits around. And here's the most powerful secret of all. You didn't create the new timeline, you remembered it. It was always there, waiting, vibrating, whispering. You just had to slow down enough, become still enough, clear enough to hear it. That's the mystery of quantum shift. And the miracle is that it's not far away. It's always one breath, one choice, one moment of coherence. Closer than you think. So now we arrive at the final doorway, not the end of your shift, but the beginning of your ownership of it. Because what we're truly talking about isn't a concept, it's not a technique, it's not a hack for faster manifestation, it's the quiet, powerful decision to stop outsourcing your becoming and start living it. This final layer is sustainability, because anyone can touch a high vibration once, anyone can feel inspired after a breakthrough, a ritual, a realization. But can you maintain the signal when it's not easy? Can you hold your coherence when you're tired? When doubt creeps in? When nothing outside seems to be changing fast enough? That's when it counts. That's when the field is truly listening. See, the quantum doesn't care how high your vibe is for 1 hour. It tunes into the dominant signal, the one you return to again and again. And that return is a practice, a choice, a path of remembrance. So how do you sustain the new frequency when the old one keeps calling your name? First, return to awareness. Each morning before you check your phone, ask, who am I being today? Are you stepping into the version of you that belongs to the timeline of expansion, of love, of power? Or are you unconsciously reattaching to fear, doubt, or survival? Second, simplify the embodiment. Don't wait for big shifts. Anchor small ones. Sit with your breath. Soften your chest. Walk like someone who trusts the unfolding. Speak like someone who knows their words carry weight. Third, surround yourself with frequency anchors, symbols, numbers, sacred objects, images that whisper to your subconscious, we are still shifting. The mind may forget, the body may wobble, but the environment can remind you. Fourth, track your signal, not your results. Most people collapse back into the old timeline because they're addicted to evidence. They need to see it working, but the most powerful shifts don't show themselves immediately. They build like pressure in the field, until suddenly everything clicks. And when it does, you'll realize it wasn't magic. It was the consistency of your signal that shaped the outcome. Finally, amplify with gratitude, not as a performative gesture, but as a felt state. When you give thanks for something that hasn't physically arrived, but emotionally feels real, you collapse the wave. You imprint the timeline. You say to the field, "This is already mine." And the field responds. Because the quantum doesn't speak English, it speaks energy. So speak fluently, not with your words, but with your way of being. Now, take this in slowly. Your timeline is not waiting for you out there. It's not hiding in the future. It's already here, coexisting with the one you're currently living. And every breath, every decision, every energetic shift is you tuning the dial. So here's your invitation. In the next 24 hours, surprise yourself. Do one thing that belongs to the version of you in the new timeline. Maybe it's a courageous conversation, a silent pause before reacting, a loving act toward your own body, a moment of trust when fear would have normally won. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be true. And in that moment, know this: you are no longer waiting for the shift. You are being the shift. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment and share what you're feeling tonight. Your likes and subscriptions help this channel grow and reach others on the same path. Stay tuned, stay open, and remember, nothing happening right now is by accident. Until next time, take care and stay aligned with the Mystery School.